Shen Zhijing came to pick me up by car. A man who is always aloof and abstinent. He actually let his new secretary sit in the passenger seat of his car. I know that this marriage can't be saved. That day, Shen Zhijing came to pick me up by car. When I opened the passenger door, I was stunned for a moment. A young and beautiful girl was sitting in the passenger seat, smiling sweetly at me. "Hello, sister-in-law." The girl greeted me politely. But she had no intention of getting up and giving up her seat. I narrowed my eyes slightly and turned my gaze to Shen Zhijing. Shen Zhijing lowered his eyes to answer the phone and didn't notice the undercurrent here. Today we had originally agreed to go to an auction together. I was looking forward to this date with him and deliberately dressed up carefully, but I didn't expect that there would be someone else sitting in his passenger seat. "Hello, sister-in-law. I'm Bai Luo, the new assistant to President Shen." The girl's lips curved into a warm smile. Two shallow dimples appeared, extremely sweet. "I heard that you are going to a private auction tonight, so I begged President Shen to take me along to see the world. Don't worry, I will definitely not disturb you." My heart instantly sank to the bottom. I know this cold and perfect man in front of me too well. He has always been very distant. He won't let others set foot easily. We got together because of an arranged marriage. After much consideration, we chose each other. People outside joked that I would be like a widow. But after confirming our relationship, Shen Zhijing would hold me gently with soft eyes. When emotionally moved, his eyes would also turn slightly red. He said, "You are my wife. Husband and wife are one. You are naturally different from others. Today, it seems that something has changed. But I am not a dodder flower who swallows insults. I am Xie Qing who never needs to look at others' faces when angry. Get out." I coldly chased her away without showing any mercy. The girl was stunned for a long time. She didn't expect that on our first meeting, I would directly embarrass her. Perhaps my tone was too cold and hard. Bai Luo was at a loss for a moment. Sorry, sister-in-law." The girl's voice was choked with sobs and she dejectedly sat in the back row. Shen Zhijing just finished his call and looked over at us. He realized that I was angry. His face was filled with helplessness and indulgence. The man leaned over and fastened my seat belt. Noticing that the position had been adjusted, I impatiently adjusted it again. After all this, I was extremely angry. So annoying. Why does someone dare to adjust my passenger seat? The air pressure in the car was cold and condensed, and the girl was too scared to say anything. Shen Zhijing frowned slightly. He suggested to me calmly, "If you are in a bad mood today, we can go home first." The woman in the rearview mirror was silently shedding tears. I was extremely annoyed. "Bai Luo, right? I'm not in the mood to go now. You take a taxi back. I and President Shen are going home." The girl's face was pale and she looked at Shen Zhijing weakly. The man had no intention of helping her out. The girl got out of the car in a daze. Shen Zhijing wouldn't embarrass me in front of others. He always knows how to control his emotions. So he suggested to me, "Go home. If there's something, solve it at home. This is our tacit understanding over the years. She is just a college student who has just entered society. Why are you fussing over this with her?" Shen Zhijing held me in his arms. The first time. Shen Zhijing didn't understand. "What? For so many years, this is the first time that you let another woman sit in your passenger seat." The man didn't expect that this was what I cared about. Everyone in the circle knows how excellent Shen Zhijing is. There are countless women who like him. But he is clean and self-disciplined. Although there are many charming flowers, he doesn't touch a single one. Shen Zhijing smiled faintly and rubbed my hair. "I didn't expect to make you jealous for once." The man leaned down and kissed me, his nose brushing against my cheek. "She is my subordinate, nothing more. There will be no other relationship between me and her." Shen Zhijing held my face and looked into my eyes. He gave me a promise in a deep voice. A woman's sixth sense is always accurate. Even though I have only met Bai Luo once. My intuition tells me that this girl must have other thoughts about Shen Zhijing. I thought that the warning on our first meeting would be enough. But I didn't expect that the auction necklace that was supposed to be given to me was worn around the girl's neck the next day. Xiao He, as Shen Zhijing's chief assistant, sent me a photo and a screenshot of a moment's post. In the photo, the crescent-shaped diamond necklace hung around Bai Luo's fair neck, making her even more delicate and charming. The girl's eyes were red and swollen, but there was a smile on the corner of her mouth. Presumably, she cried a lot last night when she got home. And received a gift from someone. In the screenshot, it was Bai Luo's moment's post. The president said that girls should be strong even when they are wronged. Wipe away tears. Yes, sir, my president. Several cute fist-pumping expressions. And a picture of the necklace in a box. At that moment, my blood almost froze. Although it's hard to admit, I must admit. I was almost out of control because of her stimulation. This feeling is very uncomfortable, just like my cherished white handkerchief is stained with a pool of mosquito blood. This feeling is very strange to me. I even thought that regardless of the facts, I would first drive a yellow Ferrari at 180 miles per hour and slap that woman twice in the face. But looking at my own hand, I felt that it was really demeaning to take her inferior green tea seriously. I called Wenwen from Hermes. In Wenwen's tone, there was uncontainable joy. She assured me on the other end of the phone. Mrs. Shen, don't worry. Even if I empty Shanghai today, I will collect all the goods and make sure to send them all to you. So on that day, before getting off work, except for Bai Luo, all the assistants of the bosses and the girls in the general manager's office of Shenxi Group headquarters, a total of 46 people, received generous gifts from the president's wife, Hermes necklaces worth 120,000 yuan. Although the unit price is not as high as the 2 million auction necklace, but there are many people, so it's considered fair. Xiao He is tactful in handling affairs. He requires everyone to post on Moments with the following text: the president's wife said that every girl deserves better. Clench your fist. Yes, madam, my president's wife. The girls who received the gifts were naturally happy to cooperate. As assistants and in the general manager's office. They are almost the gossip center of the entire company. Now that they have received gifts from the president's wife, which one wouldn't be full of joy and actively post pictures with captions? There are also some shrewd people who added a sentence at the end of their captions: the president's wife really knows how to have fun. The influence of the assistants to the directors in the company may not be great, but their dissemination ability is a terrifying existence in various departments. In less than half an hour, the whole company knew that the president's wife had given everyone Hermes necklaces. As for the reason, the various gossip groups have already been discussing it. Bai Luo's face was pale. She seemed to be extremely insulted. With red eyes, she hid in the bathroom and took off the diamond necklace. Two colleagues who came in to touch up their makeup saw her and snorted meaningfully twice. Bai Luo was so embarrassed that she lowered her head and quickly walked out of the bathroom. The ridicule behind her became more and more unbridled. Her cheeks were burning. She put the necklace back in the box. Returned it intact to Shen Zhijing. Shen Zhijing had just finished a video call with his partner. Seeing the girl who had obviously cried again holding the necklace box and staring at her toes with a lonely expression. What's wrong? Shen Zhijing asked in confusion. Before Bai Luo could speak, tears flowed first. She sobbed in a low voice, looking pitiful. President Shen, take this necklace back. I don't dare to take it. There was a hint of displeasure on Shen Zhijing's stern face. His intuition told him that something must have happened. But he didn't ask directly. He just stared quietly at the person in front of him. Bai Luo pursed her lips. After hesitating for a long time, she finally took the initiative to speak and told everything that happened in the office today in detail. President Shen, I'm sorry. I always cause you trouble. I just posted on Moments to encourage myself. I don't know why it was known by the madam. Bai Luo sobbed softly. I didn't expect the madam to be so angry. The woman was as pitiful as a little white rabbit. President Shen, I want to go and apologize to the madam. I can explain it to her face to face. Shen Zhijing never had the habit of looking at moments. His time is filled with work. But as the president of the group, he knows too well these habits of catching wind and shadows within the company. The always cold face became even colder. I see. The man said in a deep voice. That night, Shen Zhijing brought Bai Luo home. The girl was meek and stood behind the man. I called Luo here to let her explain clearly face to face. Shen Zhijing sighed. Zhijing, Luo is just one of my secretaries. Because of yesterday's incident, to express my apology, I casually gave her a gift. That's all. I stirred the silver spoon and finished drinking the bird's nest stewed by auntie. Sorry, sister-in-law. Bai Luo had a sincere attitude and bowed to me. Timid and delicate. This is the first time I have received such an expensive gift. I was so happy that I lost my head. If I did something that made you unhappy, you can tell me and I will definitely correct it immediately. I raised my eyebrows. Bai Luo, right? The girl glanced at Shen Zhijing as if trying to draw courage from the man and nodded slowly. Looking at the woman's fearless appearance like a newborn calf not afraid of tigers and insisting on confronting me, I just found it amusing. I am not your teacher nor your leader. I don't have time to teach you how to be a person and do things. But I am Shen Zhijing's wife. So, whoever dares to be ambiguous with my husband, I will not give her a chance to reform. The girl is probably someone who has never met someone as straightforward as me in her life. On her increasingly embarrassed face, there is only weakness left. Zhijing, Luo is here to apologize to you. Shen Zhijing knew my temperament and methods. Even if he didn't approve of what I did today, he could understand my mood. So he didn't lose his temper with me. He just agreed to let Bai Luo come and apologize to me. He has made concessions and wants me to let go of the misunderstanding. We are all smart people. Even with just one look, we know each other's meaning. I see. I decided to give Shen Zhijing a chance. After all, he really didn't cheat. But there is no next time, no matter who it is. You don't need to use such means to deal with a girl. Before going to bed, Shen Zhijing brought up this topic. You should have told me first. I sat at the dressing table and took care of my hair, staring at the handsome man in the mirror. You clearly know that I like that necklace, but you gave it to another woman. Isn't it reasonable for me to be angry? I can't imagine that if such a perfect person is soiled, can I still love him as always? Shen Zhijing was calm and composed. He went to the bar and poured himself a glass of ice water. She cried all night because of your misunderstanding. In the morning, when I saw her eyes were so swollen, I casually gave her the necklace as an apology. There was no flaw. I coldly examined him for a long time. 2 million is just a small amount for us. It makes sense to give it away casually. It just depends on whether the other person is worth it. The man tapped the marble countertop with his fingertip. He was waiting for me to think. This is the first time we have had a conflict in our relationship because of a third party. The education and upbringing we received since childhood make us both feel a little tired about such things. We are all people who value dignity. Shen Zhijing, I love you. Shen Zhijing's fingertips paused. He probably didn't expect me to say this suddenly. Shen Zhijing, I love the spotless you. This is what makes you different from others. You never let women get close before because you have emotional cleanliness. You want a clean marriage. I wasn't like this before, but your values have influenced me. Now, our life goals are the same. I hope there will never be a fork in your marriage. Shen Zhijing was helpless. I don't have one. Shen Zhijing is a very clear-headed person. Knowing that I mind, he will not give Bai Luo any chance to have illusions. Without the promotion of the president, as an intern, Bai Luo can only start from the most basic work. Before, she still had the opportunity to take turns at the main station. Now, Xiao He doesn't schedule her at all. I didn't signal people to ostracize her. Since Shen Zhijing is measured, I completely trust him. But for this kind of thing, I don't need any instructions. There are many people who worship the high and step on the low. In less than half a month, this new secretary couldn't bear this work gap and psychological blow, and lost a whole circle. The turning point occurred after an important high-level meeting. On that day, Bai Luo was arranged to clean up the small meeting room alone. The girl was wearing a skirt and was kneeling on the ground, holding a blade and struggling to clean the chewing gum on the carpet. This scene was witnessed by Shen Zhijing, who returned temporarily. Sensing the person behind her, the girl hurriedly got up in embarrassment. Shen Zhijing's gaze was deep and cold. This silent stare made Bai Luo's self-esteem completely disappear. President Shen. The girl's tears unconsciously dripped down. She didn't act or pretend. Shen Zhijing was originally the son that she admired but couldn't touch. When she was marginalized, she was almost resigned. Now being seen by the man in this state, Bai Luo wished she could push Shen Zhijing away and rush out. After not seeing each other for half a month, the originally cheerful and lively girl had become so fragile. This was the first time Shen Zhijing got angry. When he got home, he slammed the water cup I handed over to the ground. Water splashed. Why won't you let her go? Xie Qing, I respect and love you. I tolerate your insults and harm to her again and again. What pleasure can you get from bullying the weak? I remembered that during Shen Zhijing's study abroad, his younger sister in junior high school committed suicide by jumping off a building because of school bullying. This became an indelible scar in his heart, so he hated it deeply. Xie Qing, don't let me see you using these means to hurt others again. Otherwise, I will no longer stand by. I stared blankly at the man in front of me who was out of control. For the first time after marriage, Shen Zhijing lost his and got angry at me for a woman and for something I didn't do. This feeling is very uncomfortable. Just like glass shattering. Just like spilled water cannot be gathered up. Shen Zhijing promoted Bai Luo to be his personal assistant. At the same time, he fired Xiao He resolutely. This chief assistant who has been working hard with him for 7 years. You have to figure out who you are really working for. Xiao He is very stubborn in some aspects. I am working for you, President Shen. For some things, I will contact Madam privately. But it only involves some personal matters. The man threw the schedule to Xiao He. Really? So righteous? Then does your professional ethics make you bully others by relying on power? Xiao He was speechless. She knew that she had been found out for making things difficult for Bai Luo, and showed timidity on her face. Shen Zhijing understood at a glance. Without tolerance, unable to distinguish right from wrong, and suppressing colleagues by mixing personal and public affairs. What qualifications do you have to hold the position of chief assistant? Xiao He walked out of the office dejectedly. Several assistants outside looked sad. Sister He, are you really leaving? Before the big teardrops could burst out, Xiao He quickly wiped them away. Well, I'm leaving. Sisters, see you in the Jianghu again. Shen Zhijing and I fell into a cold war, unprecedented. He lives in a hotel. Bai Luo came to get his change of clothes. Killing people is punishing the heart. If Shen Zhijing wants to make people unhappy, he will be even worse than me. The live-in aunt had received the call long ago. Packed up his daily necessities for him. Bai Luo was probably scared by my temper. After taking the suitcase packed by the aunt, she obediently took a taxi and left. Before leaving, she said carefully, Madam, President Shen asked us to add friends. In the future, if there is anything, you can contact me. Xiao He is gone, and Bai Luo has taken over her job. There's nothing to contact. Tell him to get as far away as possible. Bai Luo didn't understand why I could still be so tough now that Shen Zhijing was living in a hotel. There was confusion in her eyes, but more of it was secret joy. The aunt shook her head and kindly persuaded. Madam, why don't you give in and go and apologize to Mr. The two people who didn't even quarrel on weekdays suddenly became like this. The aunt has been with the Shen family for more than 10 years. After getting along for a long time, there is affection after all. He is also waiting for me to admit my mistake and apologize, right? Ridiculous. Why should I apologize? Shen Zhijing never came back. But Bai Luoluo's moments was updated frequently. Most of them are about Shen Zhijing's schedule. Chanel's private custom evening dress. Invitation to a private equity fund's dinner party. The million fireworks at the Summit Forum. The night view of the evening breeze at the Burj Al Arab Hotel. Group photo with the CEO of Qingfeng Capital, and so on. All of them are sighing that meeting the right person can start many firsts in life. It has attracted hundreds of likes at every turn below. Some people even gave advice in the comment area, asking her to open Douyin and show everyone the daily life of the upper class. Several mutual friends sent me screenshots of her moments in confusion and put a question mark. Now if you want to know President Shen's whereabouts, you can guess 7 or 8 out of 10 by looking at this secretary's moments. Everyone is smart. Speak with restraint. In the past, most of the people who accompanied Shen Zhijing to attend activities were me. If I happened to be busy or didn't want to go, then several of his assistants would take turns. Now, his regular female companion has changed. I don't have the mind to reply to my friends' kind reminders. I just simply sent a thank you emoji. At that time, I was privately asking Shia's accounting department to help me with property division. This is a huge and complicated job. Because of the marriage alliance, the two groups hold each other's shares. There are also family funds managed by me. There are countless investments such as various real estates, metals, stocks, ships, etc. Even for some foreign properties, I need to see the address and photos of the property certificate to roughly remember. These things are a bit time-consuming to sort out. That day, I received a call from Shen Zhijing, who had returned from a business trip. Mom asked us to go back for dinner. We acted as if nothing had happened, as always. The driver picked up Shen Zhijing at the airport. Then picked me up and went to the Jiu family together. Shen Zhijing and Bai Luoluo, who was traveling with him, were sitting in the back row. They actually left a passenger seat for me. Bai Luoluo's schadenfreude is self-evident. I was amused by my own situation. But this time, I no longer declared my sovereignty and calmly accepted the passenger seat. Shen Zhijing's expression was cold and the air pressure around him was terrifyingly low. Sister-in-law, we just returned from Manhattan today. The old lady said she wanted to see President Shen. I bought some gifts on the way and went to visit the old lady together. Bai Luoluo is still as noisy as before. But her temperament is more mature and stable than before. Presumably, she has gained a lot of experience following Shen Zhijing during this period. I didn't speak and closed my eyes to rest. Bai Luoluo was left feeling embarrassed. Shen Zhijing pursed his thin lips tightly and was silent all the way. When seeing Bai Luoluo, Shen's mother was a little surprised. The girl greeted and introduced herself skillfully. She seems to be very good at pleasing others. In no time, she made Shen's mother laugh heartily. At the dining table, Bai Luoluo talked to Shen's mother about some interesting things that Shen Zhijing encountered at work. Shen's mother nodded with satisfaction and a smile. Then she asked about Shen Zhijing's living situation. She also picked up the conversation very familiarly. The atmosphere at the dining table was obviously strange. There was still a dimple smile on Bai Luoluo's lips. In the suddenly condensed atmosphere, realizing that she had said something wrong, she was not very stupid. Daily life is a question that I should answer. Shen's mother is not a fool. Shen Zhijing didn't say a word. I wiped my mouth gracefully. Mom, I'm pregnant. Oh, really, Ching Ching? This is great news. Shen's mother's eyes lit up. When did it happen? Since I got in the car, the man who had been keeping a cold face and not speaking had a rare look of emotion on his face at this moment. I raised my eyebrows with great malicious intent. I just found out yesterday. The doctor said it has been 3 weeks. Shen's mother was overjoyed and wanted to call Shen's father. And she kept nagging about accompanying me to the hospital again tomorrow. Bai Luo was surprised. Her big almond-shaped eyes looked so innocent. Sister-in-law, did you make a mistake about the time? In the past 2 months, President Shen and I have been on business trips abroad. Hearing this, Shen's mother looked stunned. There is no mistake. I specially found Professor Fang, who is very famous in obstetrics and gynecology. It is indeed only 3 weeks. I emphasized the words 3 weeks. Shen Zhijing knew very well that he hadn't been at home during this time. This child is not his. The gentleness on the man's face just now disappeared suddenly. Xia Qing. There was a storm about to break out around Shen Zhijing, but he tried his best to endure and suppress it. It seemed that he was waiting for an explanation from me. I smiled even more triumphantly. Congratulations to me, Shen Zhijing. I'm going to be a mother. Don't make such jokes, he said coldly. I put the pregnancy test report that I had prepared long ago on the table. It's a pity that this is not a joke. During the time when you and your lover went on a honeymoon, I was unbearably lonely and spent some good nights with a few of my former lovers. Now I don't know who the father of the child is. If you don't mind, I can let the child call you daddy, but he has to have my surname. With every word I said, the man's face became colder. Enough. Finally, Shen Zhijing couldn't bear it anymore until I said the last sentence. I ignored the man's anger. Shen Zhijing, how does it feel to be cuckolded? Shen Zhijing could never have imagined. I would blatantly cheat and then righteously announce to the world that I am pregnant with someone else's child. I have never cuckolded you. The man clenched his hands tightly, and the veins on the back of his hands were faintly visible. It seems that this news has really had a great impact on him. We are just working. There is no overstepping. I have never cheated. I touch my stomach. I don't want to listen to his belated explanation. Your secretary shows off your work routine with her on moments every day. Shen Zhijing, didn't you see it? Even our friends have noticed the abnormality and reminded me to pay attention. Do you still think it's not overstepping? You can look at the stars and the moon with her outside. I can talk about poetry, songs, and philosophy of life with other men. Shen Zhijing was rarely angry. But I didn't care much. Instead, I was a little regretful. What a pity, Shen Zhijing. I didn't have time to find a man and bring him back to Shen Garden. Compared to your provocation today, I am still a bit inferior. Shen Zhijing couldn't accept it. He considers himself and Bai Luo to be innocent. Between them, except for work communication, there is almost no other interaction. He just wants to use Bai Luo to warn the people around him. He doesn't understand why we have become like this. Before this, he always thought. Our marriage is very stable and happy. Sister-in-law, I and President Shen are innocent. In front of Shen's mother, Bai Luo couldn't wait to defend herself. Madam Shen and I have talked on the phone several times. For the convenience of work, I took this opportunity to come and visit. This is all work for me. You haven't gone out to work. Maybe you don't know. As the chief secretary to the president, everything must be done thoroughly. But there is really no overstepping at all between me and President Shen. Bai Luo sat beside Shen Zhijing, holding her head high. Really? On the way here, you sat beside Shen Zhijing and let the president's wife sit in the passenger seat. Did your thoroughness suddenly disappear? I mercilessly exposed her. The woman was speechless and didn't know how to respond. I didn't let Shen Zhijing go either. Shen Zhijing, is this the chief assistant you personally trained for 2 months? Xiao He is also a woman and also your secretary. She has been following you since she graduated from college. Has she ever sat by your side? She is even more thorough than Bai Luo. Have I ever targeted her once? Shen Zhijing was breathing rapidly, and his eyes were already flushed. Let's get a divorce, Shen Zhijing. The man took me home, leaving Bai Luo at Shen Manor. This is the first time he has come home since the Cold War. At home, I have already dealt with almost everything. Even all the live-in aunts have been dismissed by me. Shen Zhijing stopped in his tracks, stunned and in disbelief. The home we have lived in together for 3 years has now become strange. He finally realized. My divorce was premeditated. Shen Zhijing had red eyes and was incredulous. He held me tightly in his arms. Xie Qing, I didn't cheat. The man's lost and low voice lingered in my ears. Get rid of the child and let's start over. As if hearing a joke, I retorted. That's my child. Why should I get rid of it? My calmness seemed to have pricked Shen Zhijing's heart. I didn't do anything. You clearly know. I broke free from the man's embrace. Yes, I know. You are still very clean. But what's the use? You let Bai Luo come to our home to pick up your suitcase. You know it will disgust me. You take her to all occasions. You know I will be criticized. You know everything, but you still did it. You her provocation, making me embarrassed and forcing me to make peace. You hate me for bullying the weak. But Shen Zhijing, do you see that so-called weak person deliberately provoking my bottom line again and again? I shed tears, recalling all the past events. I couldn't believe that my marriage was so fragile. You know she has feelings for you, right? I reminded you a long time ago, Shen Zhijing. Compared to being ignorant, knowingly committing a mistake is the most fatal. Shen Zhijing's body trembled and he couldn't stand steadily. His voice was as soft as a mosquito. I'm sorry, Xie Qing. She always reminds me of Jishan. I'm afraid you will also become those monsters. Shen Jishan also has 2 sweet dimples. I just don't want to see her cry. I have never had any thoughts about her. Looking at the man's repentance, I was completely unmoved. Perhaps he is innocent, but I don't want to foolishly hand over my weakness to anyone who might hurt me. Shen Zhijing didn't agree to divorce. He recruited a new male elite chief assistant. He even got drunk in the wine cellar. With great effort, I helped him to the sofa. He has good drinking manners, being quiet and obedient. But just when I was about to leave, the man, with red eyes, held me in his arms and begged vulnerably. Qing, let's not get divorced, okay? If you want this child, give birth to him. As for Bai Luo, large enterprises have their own rules and systems. He won't fire people who haven't made mistakes for no reason. But the deliberate estrangement of the president undoubtedly sends out a signal. This former personal assistant to the president seems to be overnight. From a lucky girl envied by everyone, become the object of private ridicule among people. When Bai Luo found me, her original youthful beauty was no longer there. No matter how thick the powder was, it couldn't cover up her haggardness. On the day I joined the company, I saw you in the company. Such an opening remark surprised me a little. That day when I served you tea and stood by your side waiting for your other instructions, you were discussing with President Shen what would be appropriate to give at a friend's wedding. You didn't even look at me from the beginning to the end. The girl was full of sarcasm. For someone like President Shen, if it weren't for work, I would never have the chance to know him in my entire life. And you? Just because you were born into a good family, you can marry him. On the night of the auction, I said to President Shen that it's really impolite for the leader to drive while the employee sits in the back row. When I see you, I'll change back. President Shen didn't express an opinion either way. The girl seemed to recall her high spirits on that day. I dealt with the waiter and ordered a cup of coffee and dessert for her as well. The girl was stung by my usual arrogance and composure, her eyes turned red, and the hatred in her eyes grew stronger. What right do you, a rich second generation, have to look down on me? Bai Luo was full of contempt for me. You don't deserve President Shen's love at all. Really? Then did you get it? I was at ease, watching the person in front of me lose her composure. That childish face tried hard to pretend to be calm. Isn't it because I threatened you? Otherwise, why can't you stand it and want a divorce? I stirred my coffee slowly. Because I cheated and am pregnant with someone else's child. You know this, don't you? You. Bai Luo was half choked to death by my words. The girl's emotions were out of control several times. What are you so proud of? An old woman with a bad temper, no job, and cheating and pregnant with someone else's bastard. Do you think President Shen will still want you? Slap. I mercilessly gave the woman a slap. First of all, no matter how old I am 2 years younger than the President Shen you are longing for. Then, who are you? How dare you say my child is a bastard? Finally, I've wanted to slap you for a long time, fool. When I was 4 months pregnant. There was no room for maneuver in the Shen family. Under the pressure of the Shen family, Shen Zhijing agreed to a peaceful divorce with me. The two families' shareholdings are very extensive. The strategic cooperation agreed upon at the beginning was mutually beneficial. The parents thought there was no need to change it. The division of property before marriage is very clear. There are no objections from either side. For joint financial management after marriage, I also organized it in an orderly manner. Shen Zhijing signed calmly. He was like a white crane falling from the altar, breaking his own wings. The blood was shocking and dyed his once white feathers red. We divorced gracefully. Said goodbye to each other. 18 When the child was born, he took my surname Xia. Outsiders thought it was a premature baby, but the genes are really great. Mom kept asking me who the child's father was. I didn't tell her. The so-called one-night stand man was just something I made up casually, but they don't need to know. Because it's a boy, my parents are no longer in a hurry to persuade me to go on blind dates. They plan to take advantage of their youth. Train the child as an heir. As the little brat grew up gradually, he looked more and more like his father. Without the constraints of marriage, I have lived a wanton and unrestrained life in these years. I also had a few young and handsome boyfriends. Xiao he chats with me occasionally. From her, I probably heard some gossip. Bai Luo couldn't stay for half a year and left on her own. But everyone in this circle is well informed. No big company dares to take her. Shen Zhijing has become more and more aloof and focused on managing his career in the past 2 years. At every year-end general meeting of shareholders, Dad asks me to return to China to represent him. I know what the two elders are thinking. I find it funny and don't bother to expose it. After the meeting, Shen Zhijing will pull me into the car, saying that it's on the way to pay New Year's greetings to my parents. Little Xia likes Shen Zhijing very much. Someone secretly taught him that this is his father. So he twists his butt and calls Daddy and asks for a hug as soon as he sees Shen Zhijing. Shen Zhijing loves him very much and never refuses. Now that the child's appearance is gradually growing, how can he not understand? During the Chinese New Year, I will stay in China and reunite with my family. Shen Zhijing will push aside all his work and accompany me. He wants to ask me if I want to remarry. I refused. For marriage, it's better to have none than to have something substandard. But it's little Xia. Every time he sees Shen Zhijing, he is visibly happier than usual. He must sit between me and Shen Zhijing, calling Mom on the left and Dad on the right and giggling non-stop. I slapped him on the back of the head and told him not to shout randomly. Shen Zhijing had red eyes and was at a loss. He has thousands of "I'm sorries" he wants to say to me. But I don't need them anymore.